Welcome back, everyone, from the campuses of America's most elite anti-Semitic universities to the mostly peaceful protesting, from London to LA to the TikTok influencer geniuses. The West is seeing tsunamis of Islamic terrorism supporters. But to them, I ask, why be merely terrorist adjacent? Why cloak your true agenda in thinly veiled chanting? Why stop there when you yourself can become a certified Islamic terrorist? I know why, strange as it may seem, even with your Ivy League educations, with your millions of TikTok followers bewitched by your brilliance, even you, the best among us, simply don't know how. So allow me to help you by sharing the story of Yaron Avraham. As a youth, he was indoctrinated into Islamic terrorism and gives us some insight about how to be a real-life terrorist. Here's some pointers in Islamic terrorism based on his story from an English transcript of that interview. First, don't ask questions. Avraham lived in Lud until he turned 9. One of his sisters, the one he was closest with among his siblings, was murdered over family honor. I started asking questions, wanting to understand what happened, he said. His family, fearing he would complicate things for them if he stayed in Lud, sent Avraham to an extremist mosque in Gaza for his education. Asking questions indicates you are not sufficiently brainwashed, and so you must stop asking questions and then proceed to step 2. Become indoctrinated. At the mosque, Avraham underwent training to be a shaheed, a religious martyr for Islam. The school day ran from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's a long day. His education began with memorizing the entire Quran, including Sharia law. From there, we started to understand what was the goal of this institution. What is the goal? To turn you into a shaheed, or martyr. They did not give us weapons. They didn't give us knives. They were working on turning us into living weapons, or suicide bombers. This brings us right to our third step: embrace death. A major part of the training focused on overcoming the fear of death, according to Avraham. Trainees were made to walk around cemeteries that contained the remains of suicide bombers, to inspire children to want to be like them. The instructors normalized death for the students. You live it every day and every night. What scares you is staying alive, sinning. God forbid, wanting to live as a normal human being, someone who wants to get married and such things, to get to know what it means to be a child. At the age of around 13 and a half, 2 kids were suspected of having relations between them. These 2 kids were beheaded in front of all of us, he said. It's not a world you're familiar with. The religion of Islam sanctifies death, and the peak of this training is lying in an open grave. Try to imagine for a moment, close your eyes, lying in an actual open grave. About 30 or 40 students, teachers, etc. stand above your head, reading verses from the Quran so that you can feel that moment when you become a martyr. They lead you, angels guide you to a meeting with the Holy One, blessed be He, all sorts of things like that, Avraham continued. And after taking these first 3 steps, remember that you're all in. He explained that moderation in Islam is suppressed. If an Islamic leader decides to join in fighting against Israel, anyone in the community who resists or refuses to take part, they will mark their houses in red as traitors. They will be the first whose houses will go up in flames. So here's the very simple 4-step process. Don't ask questions. Become indoctrinated. Embrace death, and remember, you're all in. But of course, there's nothing like first-hand experience, and given the FBI's warnings of increased Islamic terrorism threats since October 7th, the West will no doubt experience just that. We can therefore expect, in the end, a well-rounded education in Islamic terrorism, from the 4-step process to first-hand experience. Terrorist-sympathizing Westerners will want to stop watching this video now, but the rest of you may wonder what happened to Yaron Avraham. Eventually, he fled from the mosque and returned to Lud. He stayed first with his family for 2 weeks before moving near an Israeli military base with a Muslim cemetery nearby. Near the cemetery, Avraham met a Jew for the first time. The man gave Avraham money and sent him on a bus to Eilat, where Avraham was adopted by a Jewish Israeli family. There's just too much in this paragraph for me to let go, so I'm going to read it again like someone reporting for mainstream media. Eventually, Avraham fled from the peaceful mosque in the very oppressed Gaza and returned to the apartheid city Lod in the oppressive colonial outpost of Israel. He stayed first with his peace-loving family for 2 weeks before moving near a racist Israeli military base with a nearby Muslim cemetery full of the bodies of victims of Israel's ethnic cleansing. Near the cemetery, Avraham met a Jew for the first time. Since Jews control all of the world's banks, the man was able to give Avraham money, which, in reality, belonged to the oppressed people the Jew took it from in the first place, and sent him on a bus to Eilat, the concentration camp, where Avraham was adopted by a Jewish Israeli family as a cover for their own racial supremacy. And there's my audition for the BBC. Let me know how you think I did in the comments section. Avraham's story is really fascinating and one of several that's emerged recently and given us important and disturbing insight into Islamic terrorism. And in turn, Islamic terrorism has given us important and disturbing insight into the bowels of fashionable Western thought, which finds agreement with this terrorism in the name of decolonization. And from our 4 tips for becoming an Islamic terrorist, many Western idiots are aligned with the first 2. Don't ask questions. Critical thought is a tool of the oppressive Western regime. And number 2, indoctrination is obviously well underway from the universities to social media. But embracing death, not so much. And that's one of the ironies. Terrorist-adjacent Westerners embrace safe spaces, not death, while death at most, or complete subjugation at least, awaits them at the hands of the very same people whose slogans they chant. Meanwhile, both the grotesqueness and the motivations of Islamic terrorism are on full display for those who have eyes to see. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.